All right, let's go up to Mike Seidel, just getting started there in Charleston, West Virginia. And Mike, interestingly enough, this morning it came in like a wall here. I'm going to show people that video in just a little bit of how it came right over the city in the skyscrapers. How did it come in for Charleston?
It came in pretty fast and heavy, Jim, much like down there. Not quite as fast. We went from no snow to about 2 miles in about 15 to 20 minutes. So that's a pretty quick increase in the snowfall rate. We're right off 64 at the Kanawha River, and we're watching cars come off the eastbound exit, taking it nice and slow. You can see the roads are snow-packed, snow-covered. We've seen the salt trucks come by, and then going across the river, that's I-64. Traffic going away from the camera is westbound towards Huntington. Eastbound, you head back towards Beckley. We've had some heavy snow in the past couple of hours, but get this stat. Up until today, talk about a West Virginia snow drought. Up until today, Charleston, West Virginia had only had 0.2 of an inch of snow. We've been talking about New York City with the same amount. So already we've had over 2 inches in just a couple of hours. So they now had 10 times their snowfall to date. Here's another number. Elkins, West Virginia. This is over by the ski resorts where they get up to 70 inches of snow a year. They're down almost 2 feet. Elkins, West Virginia has only had about a half an inch of snow. So we're going to put a dent in the snow drought. This is going to continue through later on this evening. After midnight, it winds down. And as Jim mentioned, temperatures are going to tumble. It won't be as cold here as in Nashville because it's going to take a while for skies to clear. But tomorrow morning here in the Charleston area, we're looking at lows around 15. One thing we don't have, we're not complaining about, is the lack of wind. So blowing and drifting is not an issue. The winter storm warning continues overnight for the icy and snow-packed roads. And so far at the airport, now remember, the airport is not a very busy one. It doesn't have a lot of flights. They've canceled 7 flights today. Temperatures now 27. We've really chilled down since yesterday. It was at 54. The cold front came through. We went down to 29 this morning, now down to 27. The evaporative cooling took over, and the snow came down hard. Roadways will continue to be the issue, especially after the sun goes down, because we'll lose what little insulation we have here in early January. So we'll keep an eye on the bridges, the overpasses. There are a lot of those here in the Mountain State, especially in Charleston. We've got I-77, I-79, and I-64. So far, things are moving okay. And here comes a plow down the ramp. Obviously, this is not Nashville. They got plenty of plows, plenty of salt here in West Virginia. So we'll see how they keep up with it and how quickly they can keep these roads from really getting snow-packed and snow-covered. And Jackie, too, will keep an eye on this part of I-64 because we've already had a major pileup on another section of the 64 freeway earlier today. Jackie?
Yeah, we've got that in eastern Kentucky. Tough to even see those cars actually on 64 behind you, Mike. Visibility really dropped there. Thanks so much. Let's get you caught up with...
Good afternoon from Charleston, West Virginia. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. We are in the thick of it right now, and we will be in the 1 to 2 inch snowfall rates for the next few hours as we head into rush hour. The sun will set in 45 minutes, so it's already getting low in the sky. So what little radiation that helped us out earlier is going away. Temperature now 27, heading down to 15. The snow is going to wind down and back off mid to late evening. But look at this already. This is I-64 heading over the Kanawha River Bridge. That's traffic going away from the camera. That's westbound traffic. Meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on accidents. We've got a couple of accidents on I-77, one in Wood County and one in Kanawha County. These from the DOT from West Virginia, but not saying that they're shutting down the entire interstate in either direction. So that's good news. Hopefully everybody's okay and then get the car off the road and keep traffic moving. But that's our concern right now is traffic spin-outs and accidents. And with this kind of road condition, the wet snow freezing up, with temperatures falling tonight, that's going to be a continuing issue. The winter storm warning goes till 8 a.m. That's because even though the snow will be long gone, they're going to have issues in the morning, especially anything that's untreated. Now, the sun is going to come out tomorrow. That's going to help us out, even though the temperature is not going to go above freezing. We'll get the insulation. That will really help out these roadways. But you can see right now, there's slush and snow-packed, and the clouds have come by, and they've thrown salt down, but the snowfall rate has been running at about 1 inch an hour mark. And right now, it's lightened up a little bit, but we have a long way to go. About another 3 or 4 hours of moderate, potentially heavy snow before it starts to ease off. But just amazing how little snow they've had in West Virginia this year. Here in Charleston, only 0.2 of an inch. Incredible. In the mountain state of West Virginia, hardly a flake in this area.
That is incredible. It's not enough for the snow lovers there across West Virginia, but we're trying to make up the difference a little bit, Mike, as you referenced, with those heavier snowfall rates that are moving in.
And right smack dab in the middle of that right now is meteorologist Mike Seidel in Charleston, West Virginia. Mike, are you at 1 or 2 inches an hour?
Closer to 1 inch an hour, Jim. I've measured 4 at my location. The airport just came in with a snow increase, what we say in meteorology, snocker, at 1/3. So they're saying around 3 inches, but I've got 4 here. 27 degrees. You notice it's getting dark now. We're keeping an eye on 64 and the ramp coming off 64, traffic going eastbound towards us. And there have been a lot of accidents. I've been looking at the DOT site from West Virginia. We've got accidents up and down 64, 77, and 79. None of these have shut down any of the interstates. We got one on 64 westbound, mile marker 35, Putnam County, right here in Kanawha County. We've got an accident. Be prepared to stop and slow down when you go by the accident. That's at mile marker 106 on I-77 southbound. We've got major interstates through the area. 3 major interstates. There goes the fire truck. And this is a concern because, as you notice behind me, it's all elevated. So the cold air will surround the structure, and these areas will freeze first. Now, with that said, they have thrown down a lot of salt, and yesterday they brined the interstates in the state. And it was a great day yesterday because it was in the 50s, and it didn't rain before it snowed. If it rains before it snows, it washes that brine away. But the brine is on the roadways, and that certainly has helped to pre-treat the roadways. Our temperatures tonight will go down to about 15. Heavier snow now until about 7 or 8 o'clock, and then it will lighten up to snow showers. By about midnight or so, it should all be over with, and skies will clear later on tonight. So our temperature is actually colder in Nashville than here in Charleston, West Virginia. But the snow drought, I was amazed at the figures. Charleston, only 0.2 of an inch of snow to this point, down 8.5 inches. And Mark in Elkins, West Virginia, where they average almost 6 feet of snow a year, 6 feet of snow a year, they've only had 0.6 of an inch. And this is great news for that area. Canaan Valley Ski Resort to the north, Snowshoe over 4,000 feet to the south. They're going to get great snowfall, and they've been making snow, so they've been open. But it's always nice, Mark, to get fresh powder, and everybody at the ski resorts will do well with this, with 6 to 8+ inches of snow in those areas off to our east.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's reasonably early in the season, so you get a quick burst of 6 to 8 inches. A lot of that deficit wiped away from one storm. So we'll see if this is the beginning of a new trend. Yeah?
Yeah, here in Charleston, the deficit is 8.4. So a lot of that is going to be wiped away between now and midnight tonight.
Yeah, again, a welcome change.
Good evening. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. We're in Charleston, West Virginia. It's Winter Storm Garrett. The roads are a mess, and we've found a gentleman who took a drive from Beckley up this way. This is Jordan Pinkham from Bangor, Maine. I've been up there. It gets dark early in the winter.
It does. It does. It's,
and you've lived up there all your life. Tell everybody what it was like to drive the normally hour drive from Beckley up 64 here in Charleston.
So coming up 64, the roads were definitely starting to deteriorate. The visual conditions, they were going down to probably a couple hundred feet. Most people were just following the plow trucks. Saw a bunch of different accidents, people not understanding that when you're in the snow, you need to drive slower. I had a guy scream right past me, and then a couple hundred feet up the road, he ended up crashing out.
So are most of these accidents spin-outs, a single car?
So, single car, yes. People also not looking over the shoulder when they change in lanes, especially with the conditions. It's hard to see vehicles behind you, so people are cutting off other people on the road.
And what about 1 lane, 2 lanes? Because I know a lot of times everybody's in the right lane behind the plow.
So on this road, everyone's in the left lane because the plow trucks were on the left lane. There was 2 on the left side throwing down salt, so people were just kind of staying single file.
When you got here, what was your speed limit?
So we were going about 20, 35 miles an hour. People were flying past me, but people down here don't really understand how fast they should be driving in the snow. I was keeping it safe, but other people, they were not taking
Well, the other issue is every year, you know, we tell you have to kind of relearn your winter driving skills, and this is the first time they've had snow stick to the roads this year. They only had 0.2 of an inch, so maybe some of these folks forgot that you have to slow down extra distance? Because I see that all the time. People just screaming by you on the interstate, thinking it's a sunny, warm afternoon.
Right. I'm telling you that guy that crashed out in front of me probably wished he was going a little bit slower.
And where are you headed tomorrow? Are you driving tomorrow anywhere?
So
we're working in this area.
So we're working in this area, doing some sign installs. But tomorrow we're going to be flying back to Maine, hopefully.
You should be fine. Yeah,
we'll see.
I think so.
We'll see.
Although we'll have to. I told you I'd check the forecast in Bangor.
Right.
Because they're going to get part of this. I'm not quite sure how much because of how it's tracking up towards Nova Scotia.
Right.
Okay, Jordan, thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate
Glad you got here okay, and all your co-workers are here fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you have front-wheel drive, so that made it a little bit tougher.
It's a little bit tougher, especially in the Toyota Corolla that the rental agency gave me. But I mean, I made it one piece, just staying slow and watching out for other people around you.
That's what you have to do. Okay, Jordan.
Yes,
thanks. Good luck tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
Jordan Pinkham from Bangor, Maine. He's lived there all of his life, just about, except when he was in the Marine Corps in North Carolina and California. We appreciate his service. And he knows how to drive in snow, and that's right, Jackie. You got to slow down and give yourself extra distance. How many times do you see folks just zipping by you, even in Atlanta when it's pouring rain? I don't understand why they do that. And this gentleman who zipped by him up the road, he spins out, and you go by, and you know, sometimes you might wave at these folks that, what are you doing? It's just, you just got to give yourself extra distance.
Absolutely. And just because you're a good driver doesn't mean all the cars around you are good, experienced drivers in the snow either. So you need to have that extra space between you and them. It's them that you should be worried about as well. All right. Thanks so much, Mike Seidel. Well, as we told you, and we want to go there now live to our meteorologist, Mike Seidel, where the snowfall rates have been coming down around 1 inch per hour. Mike, visibility really, really tough here right now.
Hey, Jackie, I just lost my connection with Atlanta, so I'm going to pick it up from here. Hopefully I didn't step on you, but I can tell you this is as hard as it snowed since it began about 2 o'clock this afternoon here in Charleston. We're at 5 inches and counting, and it's 27 degrees. The darkness has settled in, so no help from the atmosphere as far as any insulation getting through. I-64 is still moving fine. We've noticed folks coming down the ramp, the eastbound ramp off 64, taking it nice and easy. We haven't had a plow come by here in a while, but we've seen quite a few plows up on 64. Now, there are 3 major interstates that intersect and come through Charleston: 64, 77, and 79. Beautiful roadways through the mountain state of West Virginia. And there are a lot of plows out there. We've seen, I hear the plows go by quite a bit. West Virginia DOT has said they've got a full complement. Everything is out on the roadways. They're salting and plowing, and they remind you, don't crowd the plow. We just talked to a gentleman who drove from Beckley up here. It's about an hour drive on a decent day. It took him over 2 hours, about 30, 35 miles an hour, and they were in the left lane because that was the lane that was wider open, and they were staying behind the plows, which actually that's a pretty good thing. If you come up behind a bevy of plows, even though you have to slow down, at least the roads have just been scraped. One thing you notice, there's not a lot of wind, very little wind. That's great. We don't need the wind. We don't need the power outages like we've seen in previous storms. So this heavy snow is going to continue for a couple more hours, and then it's going to start to taper off after about 8 o'clock tonight, we think, and then wrap up after about midnight or so. And we're going to end up with 6 to 8 inches, maybe some higher totals. And keep in mind, I mentioned this all afternoon, it's just amazing how the snow droughts have run their course this year. Remember, Denver, latest first snow on record. Last Tuesday, Chicago had their first measurable snow on record. And here in Charleston, West Virginia, where they average about 32 inches a season, they had their first measurable snow in December, but only 0.2 of an inch. So already, let's do the math, 5. Now they've had about 25 times the amount of snow they had to this date. But it's great news for the ski resorts. Hello, sir. Canaan Valley, snowshoe over in the higher part of the state. If snowshoe's up above 4,000, they're going to do very, very well. Then it's going to be cold. Now, they've got snow on the ground. They've been making snow, but it's always great to get the real thing, the fresh powder. And I just heard a plow go by again on 64. So they're trying to keep this interstate open as much as they can. We've had incidents, accidents, spin-outs, Jackie, but so far no road closures.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. Boy, with those snowfall rates right now. That is in West Virginia, where a winter storm warning is in effect. Our meteorologist Mike Seidel is live, and you have been getting hammered with really heavy snowfall rates. Boy, Mike, it is really piling up out there.
It is. The airport just came with a 2/5 on the METAR, and that's a weather observation. 2/5 means about 2 inches the past hour and about 5 on the ground. The numbers are rounded up or down to the closest inch. But I can tell you out here, we've had at least 6 inches of snowfall here in downtown Charleston, and we've been following the issues on 64. But the good news is a lot of folks are staying off the interstates, whether it's local traffic or through traffic. Look at the interstate right now. As far as I know, there are no road closures. There have been a lot of accidents on the interstates here in central West Virginia. Here comes a semi-truck. It's going eastbound towards Beckley. It's got its flashers on. That's the way to drive. And he is driving nice and slow. That's got to be about, what, 25 to 30 miles an hour. That is the way to do it if you have to be out tonight. Here comes another one and another one and another one. So we've got a convoy of semis, all taking it nice and slow. Remember, this is the mountain state. There are a lot of steep hills on these interstates, 64, 77, 79, and there's one vehicle in between the two trucks. So they're doing the right thing. If you have to be out tonight, you got to slow down. Our temperature is down to 26 degrees here in the Charleston area. We don't have a lot of wind, which is a good thing because this is a powdery snow now that would blow and drift around, especially in these open areas and these exposed interstates. As far as the snowfall intensity goes, it's going to be another couple of hours before we start to see the snowfall lighten up, and then it will wrap up at midnight. Tomorrow, what we have going for us is the sun comes back out. Although temperatures are only going to be in the mid-20s, we'll get that insulation from the sun, and that combined with salt and the plows, the interstates, if you have travel plans through West Virginia tomorrow, you'll be in fine shape by mid to late morning because the plows will do their thing overnight. The snow ends at midnight. It's not going to snow right up till sunrise, so that'll give them time to catch up, clean up the interstates and these ramps, and then we get the sun out about 7:30 tomorrow morning. So by 9, 10 o'clock, these interstates will be in better shape if you've got any travel plans. Like to the ski resorts, Jackie, Canaan Valley and Snowshoe. You know they're loving it up there at Snowshoe up above 4,000 feet because they haven't had a lot of natural snow. Nearby Elkins, 0.6 of an inch of snow. They're down 2.5 feet. This is a place that gets 70 inches a year. This is unbelievable. So they're putting a dent in the snowfall deficit, not only there but across the entire mountain state.
Yeah, a big part of the economy there. So a lot of folks happy about that. Other folks staying put here for tonight. Thanks so much, Mike. We'll get back to you in a little bit.
We are back live in Charleston, West Virginia. Meteorologist Mike Seidel in the snowstorm, the first one of the season. By far, they had only had 0.2 of an inch of snow up until today, running 8.5 inches behind where they should be. Look at the roadways right now. Snow-packed, snow-covered. We have not seen a plow come by here. We're keeping an eye on I-9 right now, and or I should say this is I-64. Here comes a plow right on cue. Oh, my gosh. There you go, right up the roadway with the sparks off the blade. So as I speak, they're trying to get ahead of this heavy snowfall. We had 2 inches at the airport, around 2 inches between 4 and 5 p.m. Here locally, I'm up to over 6 inches of snow. Another 1 to 3 inches before it starts to taper off. In fact, it's not snowing as hard now as it was just a few minutes ago. Okay, back on the Interstate 64, you can see there's not much traffic. In fact, about 90% of what I'm seeing up there is truck traffic, you know, the semis, and they're taking it nice and easy. A lot of them have their blinkers on, and they're taking it slow. That's the way to go. But remember, everything that is slushy is going to freeze up overnight. What we have going for us on the interstates, West Virginia DOT doing a bang-up job. I've seen the plows come by quite a bit. They're throwing salt down. They're plowing. The snow ends by midnight. They've got all night to catch up. And then the sun comes out tomorrow, 7:22 sunrise. So once the sun comes up, we get that insulation, that is really going to help the interstate. So if you're traveling, you got plans tomorrow, kicking into the weekend to drive through the mountain state of West Virginia, boy, it's going to be pretty. The mountainside's covered in snow. You'll be fine. And the ski resorts are loving this because they have not had much snow either. It's been a snow drought in West Virginia. Hey, let's go down to the extreme northeast corner of Tennessee, the Tri-Cities. Tevin Wooten is there. Tevin, I just looked at the latest dive from TRI, and they're saying 35, mixed rain and snow. What say you where you are? What do you've got right now?
Well, Mike, I can verify for myself. We've gone from that 35 and mixed rain and snow.
Once again, we're back here in Charleston, West Virginia, as the Mountain State gets a good coating of snow after an incredible snow drought. I mentioned Elkins, West Virginia, averages about 70 inches a season. They're down about 2.5 feet until today. They'd only had 0.6 of an inch. We've had plenty of snow here, about 6 inches and counting. Moderate snow right now. Temperature 25 degrees. It's going to go down to 15. Major interstates, a lot of spinouts reported, but no closures. The only closure we have now is West Virginia Highway 17 south, and the next county south, Boone County, and that's at the Spars Creek area. They're going to try to get that reopened, but the interstates, although reporting a lot of spinouts, no closures on 77, 64, and 79, where they all intersect here in Charleston. Look at these bushes. I'm going to give you an idea how much snow we have. Let's shake some of this off, and you can see, boy, there's just a lot of snow. Now, it was wetter earlier, but now in the mid-20s, this is powder. You throw it up, what do you notice? Hardly any wind. Thank goodness, because at this temperature, this snow would blow and drift around. Speaking of powder, how about those ski resorts? I'm talking about Snowshoe, Canaan Valley North, Snowshoe more south, but these are in the higher elevations. Snowshoe's up above 4,000 feet. You know they're loving this. And then a cold night tonight and tomorrow night, they'll make more snow. That's what they've been doing a lot of so far this season. So, Mark, one, finally, snowstorm here in West Virginia. The numbers just incredible for early January here in Charleston, only 0.2 of an inch of snow. And now we have all of this, at least 6 inches of powder. Ah, beautiful.
Yeah, not bad at all. I mean, it's really proof it only takes one. That deficit is going to be completely wiped away for many areas just because of this one storm, Mike.
Yeah, 8.4 inches deficit as of midnight last night, and we're got 6+. So you're right. Now in Elkins, their deficit was about just under 2 feet. So they're not going to eat all that away, but at least it's a start, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But, you know, it's been so mild. In fact, here, it's going to be back to 50 and raining Saturday. So it's been hard to hold in the Arctic air and to keep a snowpack on the ground. Sure, you can make snow at the ski resorts, but what about the folks that like to do the cross-country skiing, and also the folks that like to get out and just go through the woods on the snowmobiles? That has not been possible, not only here, but even up in western New York State until recently.
Yeah, well, it's a sign that some things seem to be changing. I know you said it's going to warm up by the weekend. We'll get some more rain, but this does look like it might be a repeatable pattern that another blast of cold air will come in. So, Mike, we'll watch that.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, still in the thick of it in Charleston, West Virginia. Mike, last time I heard from you, it was 6 inches and counting. Where are you at now, buddy?
We've got about 7 inches here now. I'm just checking the latest dive that just came in from Yeager Airport, Charlie West, as they say, Charleston, West Virginia, and 1/6. So, Jim, we picked up another inch the last hour. So officially out there around 6. They round the number up. But the news now breaking now from the West Virginia DOT, we've got 2 interstate closures. One is in Roane County. That's the next county up. We're in Kanawha County. This is southbound mile marker, sorry, it's hard to read, 25, mile marker 25. 3 of the 3 southbound lanes are closed. That's on I-79, so that's north of Charleston. Here in Kanawha County, we have another interstate closure, I-77 southbound at mile marker 111. Both lanes southbound here in Kanawha County are closed. I think we have a new one that just came in. Yep, another one. Vehicle crash, US 35, Fraser's Bottom to Waldo. So we've got 2 of 2 northbound lanes closed there. Be prepared to stop, watch the plow. So we've got 2 interstates with closures, and we also have that US highway. So things are going downhill. Put the glove back on. The snow is still coming down. As I mentioned, an inch the past hour. It's a very dry, fluffy snow, so it adds up very, very quickly. This is I-64, and Right to left is traffic westbound towards Huntington. The other way goes towards Beckley. You can see people are heeding the fact that the roads are not in good shape at all. Most of the traffic are semis, tractor trailers. We've got one coming up here in just a second, and they're slowing down very nicely. That's what you need to do. A lot of them have flashers on, and I'm trying to estimate the speed of these trucks. I'm thinking maybe 30, maybe 35 miles an hour. That's what you have to do here. These elevated surfaces freeze up quickly, and although the plows have been constantly going back and forth, we can hear them scraping the roadways. Still, it's hard to keep up with this snowfall right now. The snow's going to ease up and wind down and end by midnight. So they'll have from midnight to rush hour tomorrow morning to scrape these roads clear. Then we have the sun out tomorrow, and that will help even more. So if you've got any kind of travel through the mountain state of West Virginia after, say, mid-morning tomorrow, the interstate should be in pretty good shape. And Mark, what a beautiful drive it's going to be, because this state is just, I mean, these interstates, you know, it's not I-10 in Florida, with all due respect to Florida. It's the interstates through these mountains and hills. I don't know what's prettier, this time of the year with the snowfall or in October with the fall color.
I hear what you're saying. I've been on some very long, boring drives on I-10 across the Florida Panhandle. Mike, thanks for that report.
Yes.
And yeah, Mike.
Hey, Tevin, yes, you got to stay hydrated out here. I sometimes tend to forget that even though it's not summer, you got to keep drinking the water. And look at this tonight. We're in a virtual snow globe right now. This is about as hard as it snowed. Now, it's not the big flakes because temperatures have dropped down to 25 degrees, but this is adding up fast. I've got about 8 inches with my ruler here in Charleston. Now, the airport at the top of the hour was 1/6, meaning another inch between 6 and 7, and then 6 inches on the ground, or around 6 inches. But it is really adding up now. Visibility is down to about a half mile, so a pretty strong, moderate snowfall rate. Here we go with I-64, and virtually no traffic. That's what we'd like to see. Now, we've had some accidents on 77 and 79 that have shut down parts of the interstate, but nothing massive, no big pileups, just accidents. They clear them out of the way, and they'll get the road back open. But remember, just slow down. A lot of spin-outs since about 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. We talked to a gentleman who drove from Beckley up here to Charleston, normally on a nice day, about an hour. Took him over 2 hours, doing about 30 miles an hour, and he said he saw a lot of spin-ups. So remember those winter driving skills, which you haven't had to use in West Virginia because it's hardly snow to flake. Here in Charleston, just 0.2 of an inch of snow. Elkins, up in the mountains, where they typically get about 70 inches a year, only about a half an inch of snow until today. So good news, this powder is great for ski resorts, not great for the roadways. Now, this road has been salted and plowed. It got plowed about an hour ago, so you can see how much snow has already accumulated on it. Also, we don't have any help from the daylight. Now, tomorrow, sun comes up at 7:22 in Charleston. That's going to help out the roadways. So if you have a weekend trip through West Virginia, the interstates by certainly late morning will be in good shape because they're going to plow them and salt them and clean them up overnight. The snow's going to end. It's going to back off here in an hour or so, then end by around midnight. So they'll catch up and get the snow off the roadways. And then with the salt and the sun, as you know, the roads really work. It really works in the favor of us trying to get on those interstates between the salt and the sun, even though highs tomorrow will only be in the mid-20s. So, Mark, what a beautiful night out here. It's so quiet and peaceful, hardly any wind. I mean, I'm telling you, if we had wind with this, 30, 40-mile-an-hour winds, it would be a real disaster in these open areas because this snow is just like powdered sugar, and it would blow and drift very, very easily. So luckily, the winds are light as we head down to 15 tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it really is beautiful around you. One other thing I did notice around you, though, Mike, was that I saw several cars driving by that didn't have their windows cleared, much less the top of the cars cleared off. That could be a problem as the snow continues to fly tonight.
And meteorologist Mike Seidel in Charleston, West Virginia. And Mike, not all snow is created equal. And of course, when it's colder, it's fluffier, and that means higher amounts.
Yes, indeed. It adds up much faster because it just kind of has all the air between it. Heavy wet snow sinks, and it collapses and you don't get as much. But we've got 8 inches here, and it's powder. It started at mid-afternoon with a temperature right around 30. It's now down to 24 as of 8 o'clock here in Charleston. The other thing we don't have, thankfully, is the wind. You can see there's not a whole lot of wind, and the snow has lightened up considerably just in the past 15 or 20 minutes. Airport has another inch to add to their total. They're saying about 7 inches. They have 1/7, meaning 1 inch the past hour, 7 inches on the ground, but those numbers are rounded. 1 hour between 5 and 6, we had 2 inches, about 2 inches in 1 hour. So it's really come down. Let me show you the impacts here on the roadways. Now, this road was plowed about an hour ago. You can see there's a lot of cleanup left to do. The timing is good on that before rush hour tomorrow, because it's going to end here by midnight, so they'll be able to catch up. That's I-64. In that direction, that's east towards Beckley, west towards Parkers, or Huntington, rather. And notice, hardly any traffic. That's a good sign. But there have been incidents and accidents, a lot of spin-outs. But we've seen 4 or 5 cases, either on 77 or 79, a couple in Kanawha County, where they've had to close the interstate to clear up the accident. Those will get cleared up, and they'll get the interstate back open. No reports of any major tie-ups like we've seen today in Kentucky and earlier this week on I-95 there in Virginia, south of Washington. Schools are closed tomorrow. In fact, it's a true snow day. Kids don't have to log in and do the remote learning. So it's a true snow day tomorrow and a 3-day weekend. The big story here going into the storm was the incredible snow drought. We've talked earlier in the season, Denver, last week Chicago, latest first measurable snow on record this season. While here in Charleston, only 0.2 of an inch of snow. So they were down about 8.5 inches. So they basically have wiped out their entire deficit. And the amazing stat is over in Elkins, West Virginia, by the ski resorts, they'd only had 0.6 of an inch of snow. They were down nearly 2 feet. 2 feet behind the 8 ball. So they're going to make up some of that. Ski resorts loving it. Canaan Valley, snowshoe up there above 4,000 feet. They get a good dose of fresh powder, although they've been able to make snowfall. So by and large, folks are staying home. It's 8 o'clock this evening, and you can see how quiet it is. Very few cars on the roadway, restaurants shutting down early, schools and businesses shutting down tomorrow. So everybody taking this very seriously, even here where they have plenty of plows and plenty of salt to go around here in the mountain state of West Virginia. And those interstates will be much, much better tomorrow once the sun comes up. It helps to clear up whatever is left on the interstate if you're driving to or through the mountain state of West Virginia. Let's go down to northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities. Tevin, you got in on the storm a little bit late. What's the status there now as far as snowfall and your actual temperatures? Because I know earlier today, even mid-afternoon, you were still running in the low 40s.
Yeah, Mike, the temperatures, the atmosphere are very finicky and fickle in terms of seeing the snow.
Get back out to meteorologist Mike Seidel in Charleston, West Virginia. And Mike, as you mentioned, this is really the first substantial snowfall that we've seen in this part of West Virginia and really a lot of the state.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, 0.2 of an inch. I don't know if the ground even got white for more than a few minutes, and that was back in December. But it's been so warm, as we well know. Just crazy weather. You go out in the morning in flip-flops, and by dinner time it may be snowing. But it's going to warm up again by Saturday, then turn cold again. In the meantime, temperatures continue to fall slowly. It's down to 23 here in Charleston. But this is what we love to see. It's not midnight. It's just a little after 8 Eastern, and hardly a car out on the roadways. Now, that's a major interstate. That's 64. I mean, that goes from, what, Virginia Beach, and it ends up, where does it end up? I'm not sure. No, it goes back towards Ohio. Anyway, a long stretch of interstate. We have a few cars up there. Here comes a tractor trailer. They are slowing down. They're not driving certainly the speed limit like they were today when the sun was out at lunchtime, but it quickly became cloudy, and then the snow started falling about 2 p.m. And it didn't come in as hard and fast as it did in Nashville, but within a half an hour, we were down to about 2-mile visibility. And the good thing tonight is that we don't have wind, because this is pure powder. And many times you've seen us throw up the snow, Jim and I, and it just blows horizontal. But you can see that the wind is on the light side. So blowing and drifting is not going to be part of the equation on getting these roads cleared out before tomorrow morning. Snow's picked up again just in the past 10 minutes since we talked to you at the top of the hour, but it is going to wind down in a couple of hours, and by midnight I think it's going to be done with. and then they can play catch-up on these secondary roads and these surface streets. Interstates, if you're concerned, because tomorrow's Friday, travel day going into the weekend, if you're traveling through West Virginia on 64, 77, or 79, you'll be fine by late morning and early afternoon because the sun's going to come out and the roads are going to melt off whatever's left that the plows don't get. So, Carl, I'm going to throw it back to you. I think my connection on my phone has just died. I'll throw it back to you in Atlanta. All
right, Mike, thank you so much. And well, Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Seidel has been watching the snow pile up in Charleston, West Virginia. He joins us now live. And Mike, it looks like you're past the peak of the heaviest snowfall rates, but it really was coming down for a while there and adding up because of what's going on with temperatures.
Yeah, temperatures for most of the storm have been in the 20s, now heading down into the low 20s. So it's powder snow, and we've had at least 8 inches where I'm standing. We're not sure the official total. The airport 30 minutes ago had about 7. They give you a report at the end of the METAR, the weather observation. 1/7 means 1 inch the past hour, about 1 inch. They round up and down, and 7 inches rounded up and down for the storm or what's on the ground. So here we go, and look at this. This is what they'll be clearing off in the morning, but it's easy. It's like butter. Look at this. See, it slides right off because it's powder. It didn't start as wet snow and freeze, so we'll do a little. You don't even have to scrape the windshield. I mean, and the back window. That's how easy it is to clean up, and that's the advantage of powder snow. You could get your leaf blower out here and blow this off. Now, this is the parking lot, which has been plowed, but you still have the layer of snow, packed snow and ice, so you've got to slow down, give yourself extra braking distance. Can we roam out to the roadway? Let's see, Chris Erickson can follow me out there. We'll head out here and show you what's going on. There goes a power truck. No wind to speak of. A little bit of wind on the flag there, but basically wind is not an issue, thank goodness, because with this powder snow, this consistency, we would have blowing and drifting all over the place. I-64 right here. We've got some travel, but very minimal. And look at the surface streets here. 8:30, a little after 8:30 Eastern. And there's not a whole lot of traffic on the roadways. So that's good to see. People are heeding the advice and staying home and staying off the roadways. Schools here are closed tomorrow. In fact, it's a real snow day. They don't even have to log in and do remote learning. But you can see what I'm talking about, these surface streets. Snow intensity has lightened up. They're going to come through here and play catch-up tonight and get these streets cleared up nice. Tomorrow, temperatures mildly in the mid-20s, but with the sun out, we'll be in good shape. And here we've got a gentleman riding your bike home, huh? No, I'm working. You're working. What are you delivering?
Yeah, I work for Jimmy John's.
You're delivering Jimmy John's subs.
Yep, gourmet sandwiches.
What's your name?
Scotty Campbell.
Scott, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Mike, Seidel, how you doing? What's going on?
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Let me ask you a question. I hope they're giving you good tips.
Yeah, it's been a good day for that.
Well, how's the bike work? Because you don't have the fat tires. Frozen.
Yeah.
And how far? Now, I saw Jimmy John's. Oh, that's over by the mall, right?
Down on the corner of Capitol and Virginia.
How late are you going to be working tonight?
We close at 9.
9?
Yeah, I'm about to put this thing in and just walk from now on, I think.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. You want a sub? Jimmy John's in Charleston. Welcome back to the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel here in Charleston, West Virginia. The snow is still coming down, but it's not as heavy as it was before. We've been snowing 1 to 2 inches an hour, 8 inches and counting. It's going to wind down, but a real mess on the interstates. We don't have any major shutdowns and pileups like we had in Virginia and earlier today in Kentucky, Virginia earlier this week. But we do have spin-outs and accidents. We've got our very own Charles Peak on I-64. He's pulled over to the side of the road. Charles, good evening to you. You are in Mahan, West Virginia, and that's midway between where we are and Beckley. Tell us what's going on there.
Right here, Mike, along this, it's a downhill incline here. You've got two 18-wheelers that have crashed into the side, one of them directly into a cliff, a bluff here, and then another one spun completely around facing the opposite direction here. When I came up on it, checked real quick, but you can tell with the snowfall on the vehicles, these had happened previously, so I'm not unsure of any injuries or what the situation was that came up. So it is a situation that what I've noticed, most of them are doing pretty good, but there's a few of these 18-wheelers that are driving highway speeds with these snow-covered roads, and it's not a problem until it is. And so just hopefully everybody will slow down and take it easy, and as conditions continue to deteriorate.
So these semis are off the road. The interstate, I believe there's 2 lanes in each direction, and it's open. Am I correct?
Correct. One of them's with the plows. In the last 5 minutes, there's been 2 sets of 2 plows just come through, and so it's both of the lanes here. At times, there's one lane that most everybody's using because it's a little clearer than the other one. As the snowfall rate's happening so quick, it builds back up, and so where the traffic is, one lane will be more open than the other, but they're technically both open.
So what you're seeing this evening, more of the spit-out single vehicle incidents versus crashes amongst other vehicles. That's what I've been reading on West Virginia 511. It's been mostly single vehicle issues.
It does look to be the few that I have seen, and then this one, these 18-wheelers are probably 30 yards apart from each other, so it could have very well been that they were both involved, but they're not connected to each other, so it's unsure on that one. But most everything I've seen has been slide-offs and one vehicle type situations.
Well, as we know, it's called the Mountain State, Charles. You got to slow down. These hills and the terrain, up and down terrain, adds insult to injury when you have snow and ice on the roadways.
Absolutely, Mike. It's sometimes you see vehicles that are 4-wheel drive and they forget they're not 4-wheel stop vehicles. So if we can just get everybody to slow down and take their time, leave a little extra distance, plan for the unexpected, everybody will be able to get home safely tonight.
Yeah, we want you to get home or back to your hotel safely. Charles Peak, thanks for joining us live from Mahan, West Virginia. Again, that's about midway between here and Beckley. Talked to a gentleman earlier, and it took him over 2 hours, which is normally an hour drive. And as Charles mentioned, and I've seen this before, you tend to use the lane that's the clearest. Usually it's the right lane because more traffic is on the right lane. This is I-64, so we're about half an hour or so on a good day from where Charles is. And as you can see, there's very little traffic. Now, we'd see the traffic more going in this direction from left to right. That's the eastbound traffic towards where Charles is, heading towards Beckley. But we don't see anything. Every now and then we see a tractor-trailer. I think we got another truck coming up this way, but they are slowing down and taking it easy. And this is a road here that's more horizontal. There's not a grade involved. Actually, it's a car coming down the ramp off eastbound 64. You can see they're taking it nice and slow. The snowfall rate is slowing down. It is backing off. By midnight, we should be done with the snow here. There may be a few flurries in the morning over in the mountains, like around Snowshoe and Canaan Valley. Those ski resorts, they're loving this after the big snow drought we've had. Nearby Elkins has only had 0.6 of an inch of snow until today. Can you imagine that? They're down deficit almost 2 feet of snow. So they're going to put a dent in this, in that. Here in Charleston, we pretty much wiped out the entire deficit, Carl, in one short period. Most of this has fallen since 3 o'clock. So in about 5 hours, plus or minus, actually about 6 hours, we've had upwards of about 8 inches of snow. That's a pretty good snowfall rate. And that means, let me do the math here, that's about 45 times the amount of snow they'd had thus far here in Charleston. It's just incredible how little snow we've seen. We had the Denver, and last week, Chicago set their latest first measurable on record. So it's been a very slow snow season for many coast to coast, except for the Sierra of California, of course. Yeah, an incredibly warm December for so much of the East. Mike, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again at the top of the hour. Let's begin with our team in the field and meteorologist Mike Seidel in Charleston, West Virginia. And Mike, as you've pointed out a number of times, this has really turned things around. I mean, we started out with almost no snow there in West Virginia, and in one fell swoop, things have really changed. You know, I looked at the stats last night when I was on my way here, and I'm thinking, my gosh, what's going on here? Let's see how much snow they've had. And I was really surprised that they hadn't even had an inch of snow in Elkins, West Virginia, of all places, that averages about 70 inches a year. Now, they've been able to make snow up in the ski resorts at Canaan Valley and also Snowshoe in the other areas, but Massa Hunt in those areas. But boy, this is a great turnaround for the outdoor sports enthusiasts, the snowmobilers, the cross-country skiers, and certainly the skiers with the powder. We've got about 8 inches and counting. You'll notice it's not snowing nearly as hard if you were watching earlier. And we've been keeping an eye on I-64. There are a lot of interstates that crisscross here in Charleston. We've got 64, we've got the 77, and also the 79. So we've got 3 interstates, and there have been a lot of spin-outs. We just talked to Charles Peak a few minutes ago. That's been mostly the issue, spin-outs, single vehicle issues, not crashes, although we've had several crashes that have shut down for a time each direction of either 77 or 79. So check with WV 511, West Virginia 511, to get the latest on what's going on. Now, temperatures tonight will head down into the mid-teens. It's already down in the low 20s. So all this out here is already snow and ice. So there's not going to be any refreezing. The plow did go by, and they'll be playing catch-up for the rest of the night here. Interstates, we've seen the plows quite a bit. And DOT from West Virginia said they've got everybody out, as you can imagine, a full complement of snow removal and salting. And by the way, yesterday, perfect day, 54. It did not rain before the snowstorm, so they pre-treated the roads with that brine, and that certainly helps out the cause. So they'll clean this up. We'll get the sun back out tomorrow, and that will really help out the roadway situation. Even though the high is only going to be in the mid-20s, that will be good. Schools are closed tomorrow, Carl, and or are we going back to Tevin? Tevin, schools are closed tomorrow in a real snow day, and that means they get to stay home, and they don't have to log in on their computer and do remote learning. So there you go. And if you want to hear a little personal story about snow days, this is a sad story. But when I was in junior and senior high school, back in the 60s and early 70s, I went 6 years, Tevin, without one snow day. One snow day. So there you go.
Mike, well, you say that's sad. It depends on who you ask. I'm from Arkansas, where we seldomly had. I don't remember actually the last snow I had when I was in middle school or high school as well. So it's not sad. It's all relative, right? But I'm glad the kids are able to enjoy one now this year, especially now that everyone. What's that?
Well, I was going to say, I was in Maryland, so we didn't get a lot of snow. But, you know, back then, they cleared the snow. If it stopped snowing at 2 or 3 a.m., they cleared the roads and you went to school. Nowadays, you know, there's a patch of ice in one part of the county. They close the schools, you know, because of other situations, you know, lawsuits and things like that. And they want to be on the safe side. But, yeah, I think about that, 6 years and not one snow day. So I'm happy these kids are getting a real snow day.
Oh, yeah, especially with the technological advancements and whatnot, and cell phones and laptops and iPads, too. So, Mike, I'm glad that I hope you get a snow day perhaps tomorrow before you head back home. Mike was talking about
meteorologist Mike Seidel in Charleston. And Mike, certainly, as you've got cold temperatures there, you've got a fluffy, powdery snow that's generally easier to deal with, but it's going to be really cold overnight, and whatever gets compressed on those roads and is not removed is going to be there tomorrow morning.
It is, but they're going to scrape it. I'm certain these are the professionals. This is, after all, West Virginia, where it snows. Well, maybe not this year. Charleston's only had 0.2 of an inch until today. Their 8.4-inch snowfall deficit, kaput. We've got over 8 inches right here. We'll see what the official total is tomorrow morning. I-64, nice to see this. Oh, look, the buses are still running. That's the second time I've seen a city bus come through, so they're still running tonight. Schools are closed tomorrow here, and many schools, most of the counties here in West Virginia, have thrown in the towel tomorrow. The good news here, it's a real snow day. They don't have to log in and do remote learning. I-64, very quiet right now. A little bit of traffic. We just had another plow go by eastbound. And let's go down 64. We've got Charles Peak heading back towards Beckley from Mahan. So he's eastbound on 64. And you can see what he's seeing. It's still snowing. Most of the vehicles they are on the roadway are running their flashers. He's in the right lane. So sometimes it's better to be in the right lane or the left lane, depending on most recently plowed, but he's heading back towards Beckley, where it started a little bit late. They got a little bit of a dry slot, and then they went over to heavy snow a little bit later on than we did here, so they're a little bit behind on the snowfall totals. But 8 inches, powder snow, and thank goodness we don't have any wind tonight. Look at the flag, just a light wind, maybe around 5 or 6 miles an hour. That is it. Otherwise, we'd have a huge, huge issue on our hands with blowing and drifting out here in West Virginia. But the interstates will be in much better shape by late tomorrow morning. The sun will come out, and that'll take care of it if you've got any travel through the Mountain State. What a pretty drive it's going to be tomorrow on these interstates through this beautiful state of West Virginia. We'll come back and update you on the latest timing and forecast. All this is heading up I-95, Boston, New York City, Long Island. Look out. Some spots could get at least a half a foot of snow. We're on top of it. We've got live coverage, and we kick off coverage tomorrow morning on the Weather Channel at 5 a.m. Eastern.
I want to get back out to our meteorologist, Mike Seidel. He's been reporting on the storm for us in Charleston. And Mike, just an amazing turnaround after a really warm December and almost no snow. We're really trying to catch up right now.
Big catch up here because we were down 8.4 as of midnight last night and only had 0.2 of an inch of snow. And now we've had over 8 inches. We'll see what the official total is. I've had about 8.5 out here, and it's easy to measure because there's very little wind. Look at the flag. We're running northwest about 5, 6, 7 miles an hour. It is 23 degrees, so it doesn't take much to get the wind chill down. The wind chill right now is down in the low teens. These roadways, this is a surface street here. You can see still a lot of snow, but you can get right down to the asphalt. So once they scrape this, they'll be in pretty good shape. You still have to slow down. Once the sun comes up tomorrow, 7:22, you get to about 9, 10 o'clock. That's really going to help these roadways. Interstate 64, we've got mostly tractor trailers. Let me take Charles Peak. He's on his way back to Beckley. He's on 64, that would be eastbound, although it's almost going south at that point, eastbound. And I just talked to him on the phone, and it's mostly truck traffic. Not a whole lot of cars, sedans on the roadway. And by the way, he told me the toll booths are still open. So they didn't shut down the toll booths. They tend to do that, coastal locations during hurricanes. So you still have to pay the tolls. Temperatures at 23, going down to 15 tomorrow. As I mentioned, the sun comes back out, and that will help the roadways. But it is, Carl, amazing how far we've gone into the fall. Molly, into the fall, Denver, then Chicago last week into the winter, officially winter, before you get your first measurable snow. And here, just 0.2 of an inch, and the same in New York City. They've only had 0.2 of an inch of snow. We're going to take care of that in short-term fashion here in the next few hours.
In just a couple of hours, yeah, we'll change that big time in New York City. Thank you, Mike.